Hey, if I could, for all the MVPs that are already out there, I know most of you, go. If you've been here before, you know the drill. Just raise your hand in the web meeting so I can easily see you out there so that we can introduce you. All right, guys, we'll go ahead and get started. I apologize for any background noise you hear. I'm going to try to keep muted as much as possible. But for those of you I haven't met, my name is Jared Kingston, and I'm an MVP and help organize this MVP office hours. And really, I want to cover some quick ground rules real quick before we get started. So basically, if you haven't been on before, we keep the line completely open. Just keep an open forum going. And so just mute yourself if you can, whether you're on a cell phone or if you're dialed in and have the web meeting up, you can mute yourself there as well. And then if you want to ask a question, you can either chime in a blank spot. You can raise your hand in the web meeting, or you can type something in the chat. And then if we run dry of questions, I'll start to pick on some people and make sure you have any questions. If you're here to listen, that's totally fine. And you can just say that when we get to you. And we're happy to have you. So like I said, my name is Jared Kingston. I'm an MVP. I work as a business analyst for Aperio. And we have a whole slew of MVPs gracing us with their presence today. And I see a couple MVPs that are in there but haven't raised their hands, so I'll make sure if you're an MVP that you raise your hand there so I can easily call you out. So you show at the top of the screen there. All right, so I'm just going to march down the list and have you MVPs just introduce yourself real quick so that everybody gets familiar with her. So Amber, I see you're out there.
Hi, everybody. This is my first office hours. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Amber Neal Boaz. I'm an MVP, and I work for Cloud for Good. What other information I need to share, Jared? Sorry.
No, that's perfect.
Awesome.
Bill, you're up.
Yeah, my name is Bill Greenhaw. I'm an MVP also, and I work for Synergen.
Cool. Brendan.
Hey guys, this is Brendan Conroy. I'm an MVP as well, Manager of Sales Operations at Market Metrics.
Awesome. Mr. Downey?
Yeah, hi, Brent Downey. My first office hours as well. I am the Salesforce Platform Manager at Gates Corporation in Denver.
Awesome. David?
Hi, this is David Chang. I'm a developer and consultant with Idealist Consulting.
Awesome. Eric?
Hey, this is Eric Dreschfield. I am an MVP, and I run the Southern Indiana User Group, and I am the Reporting and Analytics Manager for Mead Johnson Nutrition.
Awesome. Natalie, you're up next.
Hi, this is Natalie. I'm with Talent Plus, and I'm a Salesforce admin for Talent Plus. It's my first MVP office hours in the latest edition, at least.
Nice. Conga Pete.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Peter Terhune. I'm the Director of Strategic Solutions for Conga. This is my first office hours, and I'm the co-Denver User Group Leader with Mr. Downey.
Awesome. Steve Moe.
Hi, I'm Steve Molas, and from Boston, and I like puppies and long walks on the beach. Wrong conference call. Sorry, my bad. And I'm also a Salesforce MVP.
And Deepa just put in the chat, Deepa, do you want to say anything with your apparently hoarse voice?
Yes, this is Deepa Patel, and Steve Moe, you're such a romantic, silly, goofy guy.
All right, so.
Yeah, I'm going to try and speak as much as I can or as less as I can, but I wanted to be here. I'm a Salesforce MVP and an independent consultant.
Cool. Well, for those of you on the call, you can see that this is an open, fun environment. So, so for today's MVP office hours, what I thought we'd do is try to get some questions wrapped up first, and then I thought we'd take the last 30 to 20 minutes or so and share some of the maybe your number one, number two things that you learned at Dreamforce or that you came away with that was it's pretty exciting. So let's go ahead and open up to questions. And does anybody want to start us off with the first question and kick it off here? Anybody? Maybe.
Hi, my name is Kevin Larson. I'm a Salesforce. Hey, I'm a Salesforce administrator for a nonprofit, Food and Water Watch. I've never seen so many MVPs in one place.
We travel in packs.
They don't let us get together too often because the universe might implode. So
yeah,
it's safe on a conference call, but.
Well, I listened to a couple of the podcasts, and there's just an embarrassment of riches here today. I'm kind of overwhelmed.
So where's the question in that?
The question is, how lucky did I get today? No, we're actually thinking we have been on Salesforce for approximately a year and a half. With that, we actually got started with Salesforce because we bought an application that sits on top of Salesforce for our donation and CRM on that point. Anyway, one of the decisions I had made at the very beginning was not to turn on Chatter because there was so much information that needed to be getting people oriented in our organization. So I attended the Dreamforce this year. I'm in San Francisco, so it made it really easy. Just had to walk out my door. But the question is this. With going ahead in Spring 14 that's coming up, and some of the new functionality within Chatter, I'm trying to decide, do I roll off the first couple, like in January, or do I wait till after February, if you will, and not that I can't prep before then, but until Spring 13, at least as a preview to my sandbox or whatever. I'm trying to figure out, should I roll out Chatter in first quarter, early or late?
So this is Amber. One of the things that I use Chatter for is to tell folks about the coming release. So it may be worth rolling it out sooner rather than later and use it as your communication mechanism. That's a way that I've seen it used very successfully in the past.
How big is the organization?
We have about 100 folks across the United States. We also have a small presence in Europe and in Central America. We're an advocacy group, so we generally are dealing with organizers and development people.
Do you have any people that like to test things out, any of those users that like to try it out first? Like, do you have anybody that could help you kind of look through it in a sandbox and think through ways that you can use Chatter, and then kind of like draw up some examples so that when you roll it out, people can also look through and get ideas for what they use it for, so that you don't have, you want to, as much as possible, not have an uprising of, we don't like this, turn it back off,
Right. Yeah. No, one of the things I've actually been prepping for this for the last 3 months. Going to Salesforce, I went to a couple of sessions that were just excellent. One was with Becky and with Brian what I wished I'd known before, whatever, something along that line. So I actually have a plan that stretches over 3 months, from the beginning, taking the use cases, so on and so forth. I mean, I feel comfortable with the process I'm going to do. I just don't know if it's going to cause a problem when we go over to Spring 13 if I'm in the middle of my rollout, if that's going to be a big impact on that or not.
I would imagine it wouldn't, because when spring comes around, you'll be able to just there'll be new features, right? So nothing should be taken away, and so you'll just be able to add to it, because unless I haven't seen what they're doing in the new, so unless they're changing UI and stuff, but then those will be other issues, not chatter specific issues.
Right.
I would just say roll it out when you're ready.
Okay. That's great. Okay, thank you.
Are you on the Salesforce community at all? The success.salesforce.com.
Yes, I'm a community hog. I follow about 5 or 6 of the communities, plus our user group here in the Bay Area. Bonnie Hinner is very, very good, and so we all kind of try to get as much information as possible.
So the reason I'm asking is I'm here local in San Francisco as well, but the reason I'm asking is if you observe the pattern of how the communication goes in the success community with people asking questions about how I do this, that's something that you can roll up specifically, talk about specifically with the people that are not in San Francisco and the people that are in Europe. And kind of say, let's start with, when you have questions, instead of sending me an email, let's post it here so somebody else can benefit from that as well. And put it that way so that it's like they feel that they're sharing and contributing to your organization, besides just asking questions. Let them know that there's no stupid question.
Right. Okay.
I think that'll get a little bit of a conversation going, and they'll start seeing the benefit, of, if somebody's in front of someone and they have a question about somebody asks, especially with advocacy, right? You're always trying to promote what you're doing and how is their participation and donation going to benefit someone. And so if someone is like, I don't know how to answer this, and just tell them, instead of sending an email, put it on this group, and there's going to be so many of these executives and these people there, and you'll get an answer to your question faster. And once one person sees it, the next person will follow, and all of a sudden you'll start have a growing community, and adoption will get better, and then you can take that into your actual business roles.
Yeah, that sounds good. One of the lucky things for me, at least, my COO is completely on board. So I've got, very high executive blessings, if you will. So that's going to make my job a lot easier.
So that's even better, because then you can say, hey, Mr. CEO, Mrs. CEO, or whoever, please come into the group and, encourage people to start using and asking questions and doing that.
Right, and they can hold the paychecks back too. That also is a good motivation.
I had heard a good method, and I don't know if you guys have run into this, but offices I've worked in the past, email distribution lists were a huge thing, where it was send a notification about whatever to all of the people in the sales team, or for example, and that if there's appetite for it, replacing those with chatter groups, so that you can cut down on some of the email clutter. And I don't know anybody who has ever said, I don't get enough email. That's a really good way to get folks kind of instantly in place. But that's going to require some buy-in from IT and probably some department heads and that sort of thing. But that's probably worth exploring as well.
Yeah, that's great. The one thing that I would love to... I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
One of the things I'm hoping to leverage...
Someone may have their speakers on or something. Want to try again?
Jared, can you post a message? I sound so bad.
One second. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe try again.
The conference has been muted. The conference has been unmuted.
All right, there you go. Maybe.
Okay, I'll try again. Is there an echo?
All right, there we go. No,
That's better.
Great. Yeah, sometimes I figure it's my hearing on everything else. What I was going to say is I've been really, one of the areas that I think could be very beneficial in a standardized way, if you will, is topics. And I'm wondering how people approach sort of like standardizing so you don't end up with 1,500, similar types of topics. How do you monitor them? Or is there, general good practices rule of thumb?
Does anybody have a good answer on that one? What I would say is that if you're wanting to monitor it, one way is, the chatter dashboards that you can download, I think are a good way to kind of get an idea of how people are interacting on Chatter. Does anybody else have any ideas?
Well, there was a scorecard, and we had a scorecard they presented with somebody from Salesforce on scorecards, and one of the things they did was a scorecard on Chatter posts, and so they broke it down. For them, they broke it down by users, but in their location. So depending on what you want to break it down by, it's kind of cool. If you want to check it out, it would be in the slideshow presentation in the Dreamforce app, since you attended, for like scorecards made easy or something like that. But basically, what he had was he used a joined report to show like number of posts along with like kind of like other activity that they did in the system, and then he just tracked how many posts like per capita, basically, of these various groups. It's pretty interesting to kind of think through, because you could almost do a competition that way, or see like what teams are using it the most and things like that. So that might be an option.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. How many people?
Awesome.
How many users do we have on the line? Do we know?
Right now we have 26.
Oh, good. Then we should have lots of questions.
Yeah. So it looks like Russell Feldman, you have a question?
Yeah. Hey there. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey. Awesome. Well, I missed a bit of the audio at the beginning, so hi to all the MVPs, whether I've had a chance to meet you at Dreamforce or not. I'm really excited that I can get sort of the Genius Bar experience simultaneously on a regular basis, so that's great. Anyway, tweeting at Russ Force is my new thing. So I got a little bit of how do you call it? Be careful what you wish for. And that being, I'm now focusing exclusively on Salesforce development and implementation for my nonprofit management consulting firm. Right now, my project is trying to track what we call cohorts, which are basically this big program that we do, or several programs that we do, that are a series of events that happen over the course of the year. It involves an application process. It involves grouping people into various teams. It involves evaluating every single session, and so on and so forth. So I've been trying to stay with native objects as much as possible on this, I was hoping to use campaigns and campaign members and then some custom objects. I'm running into what I think are limitations of the campaign member object, though, that's making me kind of rethink my whole architecture here, and I'm not sure how much of this I can convey over a phone call. But basically, what's starting to get me to question this is just a simple need, which is for tracking RSVPs using campaign member statuses. And my admin running the program wants to know how many people from each team responded in the affirmative to a particular session. And I'm not able to do that right now based on how I've set it up, where I'm using campaign members for RSVPs, and then I've got two child objects of campaign. So I've got the team, which is a child object of the campaign, and then I've got the team member, which is a child object of that child object. And so I can't connect that back to, say, in one place, except for maybe a join report or something, but I'm not sure if that's going to give them the functionality. Is this making any sense to anyone? Do you think I should look into going totally custom instead of relying on campaigns for this?
Campaign members are winky. That object is not all, it's not a first-class object. I have built something similar to what you're talking about. I headed down the path that you've headed down, and I spent about 10 hours grinding away at it, and in a fit of rage threw my portable whiteboard across the room, and decided at that point that I was going to go full on custom. But that's your mileage may vary.
Yeah, is this Amanda?
This is Amber. Yeah.
Amber. Oh, sorry. Hey, thanks. Really? So okay. So you did the same route. So you lose some of the nice features of Add to Campaign, but you make up for it by getting the relationships and the reports that you need, basically.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the relationships are the big piece. The reports, generally you can wind your way around, but the relationships is where campaign members are just wonky. They're just they do one thing really well, and that's the only thing they do, and you need them to do something slightly different. And you may be able to shoehorn it, but you're never going to be happy with what it's going to make you crazy.
Yeah.
This is Peter Terhune. One of the reasons that campaign members are really kind of goofy is because of and Salesforce refers to as like a polymorphic relationship, in that campaign members allows you to use contacts and or leads for the same purpose and the same role. And that's what throws all of the issues in around reporting and being able to pull information. And so if you know that you're always going to be using contacts and not using the lead object as for this junction, I would kind of echo Amber's sentiment in going towards kind of a custom solution. To replace that functionality, because that then allows you to do a lot more things with reporting, analytics, and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't even gotten to the point where I'm going to be using ClickTools to create evaluation records for every single person for every single session. I'm like, wow, which one do I go with? I can't really rely on campaign member. Do I go to team member? Do I go to contact? It's going to be crazy for my users if it's this crazy for me.
Yeah, the simpler you can make it, the better. And it sounds like campaign members is just going to complicate your world, especially to Pete's point, especially if all of these people are contacts.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I've been thinking of them, definitely. So that makes sense. And then what I'm thinking, if I do go this way, I'll have to migrate the data that exists already, and I'll have to architect something new in Sandbox and whatnot. But I can still use campaigns for the purely marketing aspects of this for the email blast if I want to use native blasting tools. So I think they can coexist, even though I feel like even that might be a little confusing for some users.
It may be, but I think separating the marketing process from the execution process is important in this case. Those are two different functions, and I understand the inclination to bunch them together just because you want to deal with as much data in one place as possible. But I've fought this battle.
Right. What was your scenario basically, Amber?
It was more or less the same thing. It was registrants for classes that it was parents signing up for classes to help their kids do better in elementary school, and to ultimately train them to be community organizers. And so it was 10 weeks of classes they could attend. As long as they attended 8 out of the 10, they graduated. And so it was tracking, how many people had I'm using air quotes, graduated, which classes they came to, what the their participation. They were kind of graded. It's kind of graded, and then their feedback back. So there were two actually. We used form assembly. There were 2 forms that pushed results back to the relationship between the person and the given class. So it was a ton of records, but they did some really neat analysis on, the teacher's feedback versus the parents' feedback, and we're able to map that to increase their results. So,
cool.
It was an interesting use case. It was a ton of work, but it was really neat to see it come out in the end.
Yeah, I think I underbid myself on how much work this is going to be.
Oh, that happens to the best of us.
Yeah, you're not alone there either.
Right. At least I got the weekend.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I think that has convinced me. Thanks. I'm trying to think if I have any other questions now that I'm still with you, but I want to leave time for everyone else, so I think I'll cede the floor.
Cool. All right. Anybody else have any questions? Who else has a question up there? Surely somebody has something. Feel free to speak up or type it in the chat.
I got a question.
Yay.
Go ahead.
Hi. This is Brian Kwong. Hi, Amber. Hi, Jared.
Hey, Brian.
And I'm helping to get myself and a coworker admin certified. And in the new study guide, they talk about needing to know sales productivity tools. But they don't actually provide reference, and the help doesn't actually tell you what Salesforce considers to be those sales productivity tools. So, anyone have an idea what they are?
I think they mean things like the Outlook sidebar and Logger on the mobile. I mean, they mean easier ways to deal with the data you have. Ways to, if you have a dialer, integrating that with Salesforce, so you don't have to physically dial the phone. Those sorts of things.
One thing I thought of maybe would be collaborative forecasting, especially because it's the collaborative, right? The chat and things like that. I would guess Chatter might be one of those too, thinking about productivity and what they consider.
I think it's Chatter because forecasting is part of the sales consultant certification.
It's also heavily covered in the advanced admin. There's
but not in the admin 201.
Yeah.
So
and that's what we're talking about is the admin 201.
Yeah, the productivity, I believe, is everything to do with Chatter, since Salesforce is moving more and more towards Chatter. It's probably going to, advance into where they're going to start talking about the Chatter actions, which allows you to be even more productive from your mobile phone. So
and they always talk about Chatter, if you think about when they do their sales pitch, it's always help, teams work across other, and keep your teams more productive by Chatter. And, if you need this, then Chatter. If you need that, then da-da.
And also the communities, like in my curriculum when we're going through the class, I asked them to set up communities, whether they choose to do customer or partner, doesn't matter, but setting up, you need to know how to set up communities, because it's very clearly stated in the study guide that they're going to, you need to know communities.
They don't even mention communities in the Admin 201 study guide, though.
Yeah, I'd be surprised in 201 if you did communities, because that's not so...
I saw it. That's why I added it last time. I'm wondering where I saw it.
This is Peter. I took the 201 test in October, and there was no mention whatsoever of community. So unless there's been enhancements and changes to the curriculum,
there was actually no. I'm sorry. There was a post on the Success community in the Salesforce certification and training group, not the group that I run, the Salesforce certification and training group. And this one person from Salesforce posted that as of Winter 14. So when Winter 14 was released, there were going to be questions on communities. They might not have put out in the study guide, but that was mentioned, and that is why I included in the curriculum that we cover when we go through the study group sessions.
Does that give you
so
an
it's
idea,
probably
Brian?
going to be chatter and communities, a combination of both. More than likely chatter with chatter actions.
Okay.
Brian?
Yes.
This is Steve. The Ask Force 8-ball says it is certain. Just
Thanks, Steve.
I'm not lying. I have it right here with me, and it does say it is certain.
We believe
Sure it
we
didn't happen.
didn't believe you, Steve. We all believed you. We knew you had it.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, Brian, how come you're not coming and joining the group? I mean, part with some of your knowledge.
The study group?
Yeah.
I think it was just a conflict of time.
You'd be a great mentor for all those guys. You'd be a great mentor for all those guys.
Thanks, Steve. I think it was just a timing, a scheduling situation.
Well, we're getting more and more interest, so I think we're going to start divvying it up between West Coast, Midwest, and East Coast so that there's no overlap. Like, I'm starting to get more people saying, yes, we want to lead this. So hopefully next year I'll be able to run 3 at a time with one West, one Midwest, and one East. So stay tuned.
Yeah, let's chat afterwards and maybe we figure a way for me to participate.
That would be great.
Well, we're about halfway through. What other questions do we have out there? Maybe
I've got a question on communities now that we're talking about.
Go ahead.
Okay, my name's Nikki. I think I took the Stony Point training with a lot of you guys on the communities rollout, and I'm actually now trying to roll out communities. And a couple of things. I wonder if you know about the licensing for Site.com for non-admins to be able to modify the community content. So my client doesn't have Site.com licenses, but with communities they get access to it, but I can't figure out how to give access to, say, a marketing person who's going to go on and modify some of the content.
Good question.
Do you have any communities experts on the line?
I think the license that comes is for the admin to set things up.
Yeah.
I'm going to suggest talk to your rep.
Okay.
And
I read somewhere that you get like 1 admin and 2 publishers or content managers or something like that. That there was some kind of availability for someone that's non-admin, but I can't find where I read that now. So.
Yeah, the
I would say contact your rep and ask him.
Okay. And then has anyone built a page in Site.com that uses, for example, the logged in user's profile to show or hide content, but having the page actually live in Site.com?
I have no experience with Site.com.
Yeah, I don't with Site.com either. I mean, I just set up a community, but we were doing all with everything that was in Salesforce. We didn't go outside of Salesforce at all.
Yeah.
Like, didn't use Site.com at all.
Yeah. Well, because, it's sort of advertised as being able to control, pixel perfect design and all of that using Site.com, but they also want to take advantage of some of the standard tabs. So I have this mix. But, I don't see a lot of examples or details on how to kind of work in Site.com and use the user details to know what they can see and what they can't see. Okay, well, I thought I would ask.
Sorry, we're not all that great at it.
Yeah, and I would definitely post that out on the answer, maybe on the answers board, and if there's someone out there that can maybe answer it as well, or give some insight at least.
Okay.
Yeah, because then you might get people who are specific with some of those additional features.
Yeah.
Also, you know what? There is a specific group on Success Community for communities.
Yeah. I was just going to say there is a success group specific for implementation, so I'll try there.
Post there because I know that we have I think it's is it Fabrice or there's one of the PMs who's on there who's always helping people who ask questions.
Okay.
All right. Who's next? Anybody else have any questions? Anybody else just listening in, or maybe have something to share about Dreamforce? Any other? I want to make sure we get to all questions before we kind of jump into some Dreamforce stuff.
Are there still quite a few people on the line?
Yeah, we still have 27 audio, 25 on the web, so we haven't scared too many people away yet. I'm gonna call out some names here. See. How about Catherine? See you're out there. Do you have any questions for MVPs?
I don't have any questions today. I am listening.
Okay. All right, that's totally fine. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
What about Kathleen? Just listening
same
in?
for me. I'm just listening in.
All right.
Thanks.
Catherine?
Catherine
Nolan, sorry.
Do you guys have any good tips for successful email marketing campaigns? For creating campaigns in Salesforce, this is something I've been doing separate with third-party mailers, and I'd like to incorporate it into Salesforce and find a solution and stuff. Do you guys have any tips for that?
Are you physically mailing?
Oh no, I'm sorry, emailing.
Okay, emailing. And what do you mean by success? What have you had trouble? What have been some of your challenges?
I think just the emailer, the third party we're using now. First of all, it's not congruent with our information that's in Salesforce. We could be sending information about products that they've already, or an event that they've already purchased for, or not sending to the right people, or just some issues with the emailer in general. But you just need it integrated. Yeah. Yeah. There are a half dozen AppExchange partners that have solutions, and they all have their pros and cons. One thing to keep in mind, and this is a gotcha that a lot of folks run into, is when you do an integration between an email marketing provider and Salesforce is the amount of data that gets stored in Salesforce, because it can be pretty hefty. So if, for example, I'm one of your contacts, with some of the systems, every time I open the message or click on a link, it creates a new record. And if you're sending tens of thousands of messages and people are opening and clicking repeatedly, that creates a lot of data very quickly. And so dealing with that, I know, Brendan, you can speak to this, dealing with that after the fact is difficult. And, it's great for reporting, right? Amber opened this message and she clicked on the link 6 times. Clearly she's interested in that widget that we're selling. But is that going to matter 3 months from now? Probably not. And so be real careful that you understand what it is and is not storing in Salesforce so that you don't go over your data storage. Okay.
Are you integrated? Is your tool integrated, or it's not at all?
Not at all right now.
Okay.
Well, actually, yes, it is. We do have Email Direct, which will push Salesforce contacts into the third party, but not much past there.
A couple of things. I mean, it depends on your budget and how big you can go with your tool, of course. But there are some, depending on how much you're doing, because if your budget's not that big for it, you're probably not doing a crazy amount. So some of them it won't matter as much on quite on your data if you're not doing a whole as much. But there are some partners out there who aren't going to be quite as expensive that could maybe integrate a little tighter and not wouldn't have to worry about it. Otherwise, if you're a bigger organization, you can look at some of the big timers like the Eloquas and Marketos and stuff. But the other thing that we've done is we've started to think through like how do we organize our data in Salesforce so that it's easier for that tool. One of the things, for example, we have, actually I got it from the Salesforce forums where you put in your title, but you also select your job role basically, and it says like at what level are you. That way you're not doing anything that contains president, anything that contains prez, anything that contains VP. Instead, I added that pick list so it says, individual contributor, manager, senior exec, or CEO president. So it's the simple 4 buckets, and then I wrote a validation because title for us isn't required because then people put bogus data in. But if they do fill it in, then I require that job role so that they kind of go hand in hand. And that's something that really helps us in our tailoring our marketing to the right people.
Okay,
great. This is Brendan. I'll give you a specific, essentially a horror case on what the integration can do, because we use vertical response and it is integrated into Salesforce. And when I started at my job, we were using 271% of our allowed data. So I started looking into it, and with vertical response, every time an email is sent out, it would create what's called a VR, either contact or lead, depending on what it was sent to, and a campaign member. So in essence, every time an email is sent out, 2 other records would be created as well. So I had to literally go through 1 million records of data and just wipe all of it just from the last 5 years. So that's a problem that can happen with mass emailing things, because on a monthly basis we send out 35,000, so that creates essentially 70,000 records just by itself and takes up about 9% of our data. So that's one thing to watch out for when you have an integration of mass marketing or mass email marketing systems into Salesforce. It's the just true data problems that come from it.
Great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Can I add something? This is Susan Dare. So to talk more about the benefits of integrated, kind of how you mentioned at the beginning, is you can truly customize what email is sent and when based on the Salesforce record. So if they attend an event, you could trigger marketing automation to send out an email to them. If you haven't heard from them in a while, a different one. If it's a new lead, send a series of emails to them. So there's a lot of benefit. It does take a little bit of work. It does cost a little bit of money if you really want something robust. One kind of entry-level one that I personally have used and liked is called iContact. There's some great, more powerful ones, but they come with a higher price tag. So check it out. So go to the App Exchange, do a search on email, and try them out, give them a call. There's lots of benefits, and it can save money in the long run.
I have a client who uses iContact, and then it's basically he tracks, like he's written a lot of reports with even joint reports and cross filters and things like that to kind of just narrow down who clicked and how many times did they click and who didn't click. And based on that, he does drip campaigns. But just like Brendan said, you do have to be careful in, how much, do you use within Salesforce. One option could be to use outside of Salesforce, and then for the ones that you feel are the ones that really matter, come back into Salesforce and update some information in Salesforce for that so that you don't do, an over-marketing, or duplicate marketing or things like that.
We do the same thing. So basically, there's different activities like sent and opened and click through and website visit. We only send through our key ones, and for instance, like the sent, we don't send that over just because it's so much. So that's not something that's going to help our users really. They want to know, did they do any activity on what they've got? So we do that, and that helps, I think, just a tremendous amount.
One thing to keep in mind with email, guys, that the way opens are registered, and this is true with all email marketing providers, this is true with all email forever and ever, the way they track opens is that the user, the recipient of the email has to choose to view images in the message because it's all tracked with an invisible pixel. And so your message has to be compelling enough to get people to download those images because they can look at that message 8 times between now and 5 minutes from now, and no opens will register if they're not downloading images. And a lot of email clients now will not download them by default because of spam, and we've all seen the Viagra ads. And so you have to have a compelling enough message and a compelling enough call to action to get them to download those images so that you can track that open. So your open rate is higher than you think it is across the board. That's just something worth noting.
Same is true for the viewer, right? Sometimes, like I don't remember which way it is, but either with the viewer or whatever, it has to either be open so long or they have to actually open it. And if they just look at it in a viewer, so depending on, I don't remember when we did our implementation, we talked through all that, but that's a good question to ask too. Is what do they actually have to do to consider it as an open?
It's also worth mentioning that if it is registering as an open in that viewer, I don't know about you guys, but I tend to cycle through my emails, and it could look like I opened that message 15 times when in truth it just happened to be at the bottom of the stack. So to your marketing automation may look like I'm incredibly interested when in truth I just haven't gotten to you yet. So that's another thing worth keeping in mind. It's very inexact. It's an art, not a science.
Okay, great.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Let's take the last 10 minutes here, and maybe if you guys want to chime in with maybe, since we have 10 minutes, the top thing that you took away from Dreamforce that you'd like to share with everybody, and I would challenge you. And I would challenge you too to just maybe go share that out on the community as well. So who wants to? Who wants to start that off? Or I can start. The thing I'll say is, I don't know if this was the first year I was able to make it, but the True to the Core session was really awesome, and some really awesome things that are coming down the pipe. Safe Harbor, of course. But really excited. So definitely check that one out on YouTube if you haven't already. Anyone else have something they'd like to share?
So can I ask a question about that quickly?
Yeah.
So I just wasn't aware. The Parker Harris Benioff Q&A, in the past I don't think it was recorded. Is that up on YouTube as well as True to the Core?
I believe
Jared,
it was going to be. At least they said it was going to be.
The Parker Harris and Mark Benioff Q&A is recorded out on the YouTube. I actually watched it a couple days ago.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, I couldn't make it to either of those, and I really wanted to, so great.
Hi, this is Catherine Chilcote. I can speak to my major takeaway from Dreamforce.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think, and I'm seeing this thought reiterated through the community, but it's just how much more capable I am as an admin than I thought I was. And I think the one session that made the biggest impact on me, and this one was like one of the very last ones I went to. It was on Thursday morning at 9. Coding for basically clicks versus code for admins, just encouraging us to see ourselves as developers. And that was really powerful for me as an individual, just to believe in myself more, that I'm capable of doing much more than I thought I could. So that was really cool.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Who else has something they want to share? Maybe something took away?
This is Brendan. I think the biggest takeaway that I got from Dreamforce was essentially walking into the developer, just that entire world, and just essentially seeing how Salesforce can be truly customized to anyone's wishes. Because obviously I'm in professional. I haven't been doing it as long as most of the MVPs, so I'm essentially big with workarounds. But then when I got into the developer wing, it was just amazing for me to see people just designing pages and being able to code through things that were complete restrictions. So that's something I do want to get into later on down the line just because of that. And also the parties were very fun.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Who else has something they want to share?
I would imagine that the Urban Tavern at the Hilton is currently asking for a higher allocation of Pliny the Elder as a takeaway for next year's event, which is just over 300 days away.
I think that Pliny the Elder needs to be supplied by the people who are asking the questions in the community.
I think Steve came home with quite a few bottles.
I made it home with 9 or 8. No, 8. I brought 8 of them home. One. I culled one. Had to cull one from the herd before I left.
Awesome. Anybody else have maybe an interesting session that you sat on that you'd like to share?
For me, it wasn't. I mean, the sessions were great, but for me, I thought the community zone, the Genius Bar, the pro bono MVP office hours, that was some of my favorite of the whole thing. I think next year I'm gonna scale back the number of breakout sessions and hang out there more than any place else. I just thought it was just you could spend a whole week just hanging out in the community zone and learn things and help people. I thought that they really nailed it with that.
This is Brent. I would agree. I think I scrapped most of my schedule and skipped a number of my sessions just to hang out up there.
Yeah, I'd agree.
But if any bosses are listening, no, we went to all the sessions.
That's right. Yeah, definitely. That was good. And I think one thing, Steve, if anybody listened to one of the Button Click admin podcasts, Steve, you'd mentioned on there just like helping out nonprofits. That was a cool thing to see. Obviously with the Benioff Children's Hospital, and how every time Benioff has the nonprofits stand up in the keynote. But definitely, if you can help out, definitely help out some nonprofits because they could sure use it for sure.
And I'm strictly Enterprise Developer Edition. I mean, I've looked under the hood of nonprofit orgs, but so much of it is core. Many of their questions, when you peel back the layers, are more platform.
Mm-hmm.
I helped out a couple of nonprofits, and it turned out like that. Their question wasn't nonprofit specific; it was about a report or an object relationship, and it's like, okay, that's apples to apples. It's Macintosh to Granny Smith, but it's apples to apples. I can fix this for you. And even I thought the pro bono office hours was great because the table I was at, there was Sharif, there was Rhonda Ross. So I had a nonprofit wingman there, so that I could defer if it was a nonprofit specific question, and if they got one that was core or platform, they could flip it over to me so that it freed them up to help someone with a nonprofit specific question. I thought that was the way that the pro bono office hours was done was fantastic, and I don't know if you guys were privy to this conversation, but the attendance at the Answers Live sessions, except for the nonprofit hub, was really low. I mean, those rooms held like 300-400 people, and I think we had 20 at ours if we were lucky.
Yeah.
I think that talking to Erica and Matt, Answers Live has kind of run its course, and the Genius Bar and Pro Bono office hours are going to become the new Answers Live at Dreamforce 14, or some hybrid of that, like maybe moving it to the community theater, where it's that intimate setting, 20, 30 beanbag chairs with like a widescreen where we can throw up a dev org. crowd swarm something.
If I can add something here, this was my second Dreamforce, and this is Kevin Larson again. And I belong to a nonprofit. And the first year, I kind of felt like the stepchild. You know, everything was so sales, 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 and yet, you know, you ran around and tried to glean what you can. This year, there really was a difference. It was like, oh, we aren't the poor relations necessarily. You know, we actually are bringing value to this. And so I wanted to give, you know, kudos to that because, you know, we may not have the same impact financially, but we actually do have that impact on a social area. And, you know, it's really nice when people go ahead and include us that way. So that's just my 2 cents worth.
Thanks for sharing that, guys. And I hate to interrupt, but we had a question come in here from Sandra, so I want to make sure it gets answered. And if you guys have any more, you know, items that you want to share, definitely I encourage you to share those out, whether it's on the MVP Office Hours group or just in general out on your chatter feed in the community. But Sandra had a question here of, you know, creating a workflow rule to send out cascading email. So, you know, we want to trigger an email at 90, I'm guessing this one, it's 90 minutes, 45, 15, or maybe days. Maybe this is days. But 90, we'll say 90 days, 45 days, 15 days, and 1 day. And then, you know, if the date that's driving those emails, if it's edited to remove the remainder emails dynamically. Does anybody want to? I know the answer to that. Does anybody want to take that, or I can take it?
Yeah, this is David Chang. In general, the time-dependent workflows, if it's based on a date field and the date value changes, the queued-up actions will change the schedule, their schedule. So if they're able to set up the time-dependent workflows the way they want it, then if the date field changes, that should still work.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say as well. And the other thing is, too, is the thing to keep in mind is, when you create those, right, you know, there's certain okay, so she just chatted, Sandra, and feel free to speak up, Sandra, but she just chatted here that you don't want the emails to go out. So the thing is that the way to do that is essentially that workflow rule basically can't meet the criteria anymore. So you have say whatever the workflow rule criteria is, if you change that record to no longer meet the criteria of the workflow rule, then those time-dependent actions will be removed from the queue. So that's the way to do it. Otherwise, you know, as David was saying, if it's just the date that's changing, and that's what you're saying, hey, send the email, 90 days before this date. Well, it's just going to update the actual time that it gets sent. So if you want it removed, you have to make sure that doesn't meet the criteria of the workflow rule itself.
So would I be better creating a formula so that I can tighten up the requirements as opposed to just trying to list criteria?
This is David again. If a formula changes value, though, it won't fire the workflow. That's the problem with formula fields and workflow rules. So if you decide to go with a formula, then you probably have to look at a scheduled apex that would run either daily or more often to check that formula field. And if it changes value, then or it meets a certain value, then it would send the email. But obviously, that's a lot more complex.
So I would be better off trying to find some way to tighten it up through using the criteria.
Yeah, that's what I would recommend. Yeah, just tighten it up, whether it's a pick list or a checkbox or something that's a little bit more, that tightens up that criteria on the workflow rule, so that it's very obvious that if this value changes to something else, then basically those are no longer going to meet the criteria. So.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Guys, we're out of time, so I don't want to take any other time up. Just want to thank everybody for joining, and definitely join our next one in 2 weeks. We're going to kind of do a year recap and talk about some things that we hope to improve on in MVP office hours in the coming year, and get any feedback as well. So definitely let us know if you have any feedback on the sessions. We'd be happy to hear that, and be active on the community. And thanks for joining, and have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Please stand by.